Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm Deanne Castro, Creative Memories Advisor in Bakersfield, California. And I have a new National Scrapbook Day border to show you today. And I have a couple of surprises. So I show you now. I think I'm going to make you wait till the end. I know, it's not very nice, but I'm going to make you wait. Okay, so this is a fairly easy scrapbook border for National Scrapbook Day. And so I wanted to show this one to you. And I'll show you a couple of things at the end I think you're going to like. Okay, so here's the border for today. So this one was made with the paper that is already printed into the flower pots. So this is just borders that you can just cut and use. And so that's what I use today. It's got a really pretty orange color on the back, and I use both of them. So going to show you this one I did first. This one, and I actually cut this piece out, but I also punched the bottom, which is the orange color on the back side, and folded it over, and then added the regular sized foam square tape. But I liked how it punched it up. I mean, the foam square punched it up kind of high, but then it didn't want to stay folded. The adhesive I used, the repositionable, just didn't like the extra stress from the extra fold where I put the tape, foam square tape. Sorry, lost the name. So I redid it, and I actually just made straight cuts. So that's what I'm going to show you today, is just some easy straight cuts using the new watering can border maker cartridge. And this is the Notebook border maker cartridge. And I just thought it gave just a little fun, grassy type look on the bottom of the watering cans. Okay, so let's get to work. And I'll show you how I did that. So first, I'm just going to trim one of these border pieces. And using this trimmer, I'm going to make sure that I don't really cut much of the wood shelving type thing that this is on. I want to make sure that it keeps just the brown of the pots on the top. So that's going to be approximately 1.5 inches, but not really. So to be able to measure that out, I'm going to pull this piece down on my trimmer and make sure that it's going to be right below that on the top and here on the bottom. So I can make sure it's straight. And there we go. So it really isn't quite 1.5 inches. It's like 1 7/16. No, 1 5/16, which would make about 1.5. Okay, let's trim that. Perfect. And I'm done with that piece. So the next thing I'm going to get is the cardstock. And I'm going to cut this at about 1 inch. This is going to go behind that piece. Okay. And now I'm going to use the back side of this, the orange one. And I'm going to punch using the watering can's border maker cartridge. Okay, so I'm going to pull out the paper holder, pull the tray out from underneath, slide this underneath, and doesn't really matter what side I use. Okay, and I'm going to punch this one. Just make sure the paper slides in here, the knobs line up underneath, and this little mark lines up with these little marks, these little knobs, and it will punch all the way down. Now I pulled this out so that it doesn't get stuck on this piece hanging out on the end. Now this is not a chain style. This is the style that stays attached to the paper. It doesn't come off when you punch it. So I'm going to trim this to about 1 1/8 inches. I don't want it to be too big because I don't want it to cover up a whole lot of the flower pots on that border. But I want it to be, actually it's just over 1 inch. So it's kind of like a 1 1/16, 1 1/8. Doesn't matter as long as it's really close to that particular size, because you don't want it to be too big. So I'm going to trim that one. Now I'm going to get the cardstock back out, and I'm going to punch it with the watering can border maker cartridge. Because it's going to shadow behind the orange just a little bit to make it stand out. So see, it's just, this yellow cardstock is going to be just behind the orange, but it makes it stand out on the border better. Okay, and that is just fitting on there. So if you've got a piece of paper that you want to use that doesn't go under the magnet on the handle of this, you can use a Post-it note. And it will put the Post-it notes on the end here. And when you put it on this paper holder, it will then cover over the magnets. And when you put the other magnet down, it'll hold it in place. And then that way you can use a smaller piece of paper. You just have to be careful when you cut it because it could move on you. But that way you don't have tons of pieces laying around that you think may be too small. Okay, move these out of the way. Now I'm going to trim this one to just about 1 inch. Kind of the same as the other one, but I want it just a little bit smaller because it's going to fit underneath the other one, the orange one that I punched. So I'm just going to make it not quite 1 inch. And I'm going to cut that one. Okay. Then what I need is to punch this one. And I'm going to switch the cartridges. I'm going to use the Notebook Edge border maker cartridge. Now, I hadn't honestly found a whole lot of uses for this one, so I don't use it very often, but I thought this was really fun, just adding a little strip of it to the bottom of the watering cans using the National Scrapbook Day paper. So it gives it, more of that grassy, leafy kind of feel under the watering cans. And now see this piece, it does go over that magnet, so it's going to stay there. But if it was any smaller and it didn't cover the magnet, then I could use Post-it notes to hold it on there. I'm doing the same thing. Make sure I pull it out so it doesn't get caught on that little strip of paper. Now I'm going to trim this down pretty small. It doesn't need to be very big. It's really only about 1/4 inch. But I want it a little bigger than that. So what I'm going to do is line it up on the trimmer to the very first straight On this trimmer, it has where the glass meets, has this line right here. So it's where the glass was added to the plastic on the trimmer. So that's what I'm going to line it up to. 1/4 of an inch would have been right here, but I wanted a little bit more than that. So I'm going to line it up just a little bit further, but you can put it wherever you'd like, just so it's going to be big enough to where you don't end up cutting off your little notebook pieces. Okay, so it's pretty small, but that's all you need. Done with that piece. And the last piece we're going to need, I actually used the copper shimmer paper that came in the secret box number 1 this year. Now the secret box number 1 is sold out, but there's a little surprise for you. Here's the border I made with that paper. This is coming up. You will see this one, but here's just a little sneak peek of what I made using the copper shimmer and that paper. So get ready. That one's going to come soon. Wasn't that fun? I love little sneak peeks, but I do still have one other surprise for you. Okay, so this piece needs to be 2¼ inches to use as the base of this border. Okay, all done with our cutting, and now we can assemble the border. Move it all over. Okay. Now I'm going to put the watering cans together first. So I'm going to turn this over and use my positionable adhesive so this can get all of these little pieces stuck down. And I'm actually going to use the regular adhesive a little bit down here too to help it stay stuck on the bottom. You don't need very much of our adhesive tape. Just a little bit goes a long way. Okay, so I'm going to offset this just a little bit. Just so it will stand out on the border. Okay, so I just offset it just a little bit there. Now I'm going to put this on the bottom. So again, I'm going to use the repositionable tape. Use quite a bit to make those little notebook things stick to it really well. This is going to go right on the bottom. Make sure it stays right on the bottom as you go across. For me, it tends to kind of move upwards a little bit in the middle if I try to put it on too fast. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to add some foam squares. And I'm going to put them up fairly high on here. Use the smaller ones. Let's see. This is really little one right here. And a little bit bigger one here. I'm not putting them on all of them, but several because this is a long border and I want it to not droop in the middle, if that makes sense. And I'm putting it up higher on these watering cans just to make sure that they stand out as I put them on the border. If I put it down lower, they may just flap down onto it and not stand up where I want them to be. Okay, and just a little one down here on the end, and another little one on the end. There we go. And take all the paper off. This paper like to stick to my fingers. While I'm doing this, I do have a scrapbook group. It's called Let's Scrapbook with Deanne. I try to add all of the new products that are coming out each week, because lately it's been new stuff almost every week in that scrapbook page. And it was really kind of designed to add ideas. And if any of you make any of my borders and want to join, go ahead and request to join the group. And then you can share your ideas that you've made, various ways that you've maybe made my borders with other papers, or kind of tweaked my idea or whatever a little bit to your liking, and you just want to share. So go ahead and request to join, and hopefully I can see you on there making some of these borders. Okay, so now we're going to add this to the bottom of this. No, don't get stuck yet. This border piece. And what I want to do is this shelving unit part right here. This probably is a shelf it's sitting on. I want it to barely show right here. So I'm going to move this down a little bit and adhere it on here. Let's see. Is that that'll be okay. Yeah. So as I go across, I want to just make sure that that shelving part just shows a little bit on the bottom. And it's kind of hard once you put that on there. Okay, so right there, across, right here. So I'm just barely making this part cover that shelf. And then it's going to be about the right height for the watering cans. All right. Okay, now we have that on there. So add a little bit of adhesive to the back here. And I'm going to add more of that canary cardstock. And it's going to show about an 1/8 of an inch. Not a whole lot, just enough to add a little bit of color there to the top. Just going to eyeball it across. Now, this piece of cardstock is a little bit longer than the rest of the paper. So I'm going to trim that edge off. See what I'm doing here? Okay, so that matches better. Then I'm going to center it on this copper shimmer paper, and it's going to look so pretty. I'm so excited about this border. This is so much fun. Okay. Just center it on here. You can just eyeball it. That might be a little wide for what I'm looking for. I'm going to trim this off just a little bit. I don't really want that much showing. And this is a personal preference thing. If you guys like more showing underneath, then go ahead and leave it this wide. I'm going to trim it down just a little bit. Take about 1/8 of an inch off and see if I like that better. Yeah, that's better. Still a little bit much for me. I like about 1/8 of an inch showing, but that's okay. I'm going to center it on here. Okay, and it's done. What do you think? Isn't this cool? I love this. Oh, my sun is showing weird on here, but that little thing for my shades. But isn't that cute? Pretty simple, pretty easy. And you've got another border to go with your National Scrapbook Day papers. Cool, huh? I love it. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready for my surprise? I have, remember a couple of weeks ago, I used this punch, that Flower Pots punch. I made something very similar using the floral ribbon punch that I used last week. So I had that frame and I made it with that punch, but then this time I made it with the the what I call floral ribbon punch. So see how I used just punched it around, made it another frame punch. It is not a frame punch, but let me show you where I lined the paper up to punch this one, because it did change a little bit, but this one was really easy to line it up. This is on a 12-inch piece. So you put the paper in and you lined it up to get it straight right in the middle of this flower part. Oops, right here. Okay. So I lined it up right in the middle, right there, and started punching across. So I punched it across. When I turned it to the end, it was a 5-inch piece. So when I turned it to the end, I centered it on that 5 inches, turned it around, started at the same punch part, and made this one. Okay, so now if you wanted something behind it, you would make it about 5¼ inch, and then you would probably start about the same spot on the punch. Because if you leave it the full 12 inches, you can usually start about the same part. Okay, so isn't that pretty? I just loved it, and it went really well with the National Scrapbook Day papers. And so now you have another option with a different punch to make another frame type thing for your National Scrapbook Day. Okay, surprise! Oh, you know what? I think I have one more. This was made, this is the project playbook, the Springtime Surrey project playbook. Let me see if I can fix this a little bit, because it's in the way. Okay. So this was the project playbook. On the back, it had an idea for a card. Well, I took this card idea and I made a full page. Isn't that fun? So that one's coming up too. I'll show you how to do this one, and I'll show you how to do it with a little bit of a variation. And there's my sneak peeks. Isn't that fun? Let me know what you think. Let me know which one you might want to see first. And if you don't want to see either one of them, just let me know that too. That's okay. So let's come back here. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have an amazing, marvelous week. Until next time, I will see you later. Bye.